I call upon God's name, and on my own, which is the same. Dear Divine Ones, welcome back to Miracle Mantras. I'm Kiran Jot. I'll be reading today's lesson for you and singing this mantra with you again so that you can sing it and carry it with you throughout your day. And I'll be adding a commentary at the end. This is lesson 183. I call upon God's name and on my own. God's name is holy, but no holier than yours. To call upon God's name is but to call upon your own. A father gives his son his name and thus identifies the son with him. His brothers share his name and thus are they united in a bond to which they turn for their identity. God's name reminds you who you are, even within a world that does not know, even though you have not remembered it. God's name cannot be heard without response, nor said without an echo in the mind that calls you to remember. Say God's name and you invite the angels to surround the ground on which you stand and sing to you as they spread out their wings to keep you safe and shelter you from every worldly thought that would intrude upon your holiness. Repeat God's name and all the world responds by laying down illusions. Every dream the world holds dear has suddenly gone by, and where it seemed to stand you find a star, a miracle of grace. The sick arise healed of their sickly thoughts. The blind can see, the deaf can hear. The sorrowful cast off their mourning, and the tears of pain are dried as happy laughter comes to bless the world. Repeat the name of God, and little names have lost their meaning. No temptation but becomes a nameless and unwanted thing before God's name. Repeat God's name and see how easily you will forget the names of all the gods you valued. They have lost the name of God you gave them. They become anonymous and valueless to you, although before you let the name of God replace their little names, you stood before them worshipfully, naming them as gods. Repeat the name of God and call upon yourself, whose name is yours. Repeat God's name and all the tiny nameless things on earth slip into right perspective. Those who call upon the name of God cannot mistake the nameless for the name, nor sin for grace, nor bodies for the holy child of God. And should you join a brother or sister as you sit with them in silence and repeat God's name along with them within your quiet mind, you have established an altar which reaches to God and to God's child. Practice but this today. Repeat God's name slowly again and still again. Become oblivious to every name but God's. Hear nothing else. Let all your thoughts become anchored on this. No other word we use except at the beginning when we say today's idea but once. And then God's name becomes our only thought, our only word, the only thing that occupies our mind, the only wish we have, the only sound with any meaning, and the only name of everything that we desire to see, of everything that we would call our own. Thus do we give an invitation which can never be refused, and God will come and answer it. Think not God hears the little prayers of those who call on God with names of idols cherished by the world. They cannot reach God thus. God cannot hear requests that are not of God or of God's child receive another name than God's. Repeat God's name and you acknowledge God as sole creator of reality. And you acknowledge also that God's child is part of God, creating in God's name. Sit silently and let God's name become the all-encompassing idea that holds your mind completely. Let all thoughts be still except this one, and to all other thoughts respond with this, and see God's name replace the 1,000 little names you gave your thoughts, not realizing that there is one name for all there is and all that there will be. Today you can achieve a state in which you will experience the gift of grace. You can escape all bondage of the world and give the world the same release you found. You can remember what the world forgot and offer it your own remembering. You can accept today the part you play in its salvation and your own as well, and both can be accomplished perfectly. Turn to the name of God for your release, and it is given you. No prayer but this is necessary, for it holds them all within it. Words are insignificant and all requests unneeded when God's child calls upon God's name. God's thoughts become their own. They make their claim to all God gave, is giving still and will forever give. They call on God to let all things they thought they made be nameless now, and in their place the holy name of God becomes the judgment of their worthlessness. All little things are silent. Little sounds are soundless now. The little things of earth have disappeared. The universe consists of nothing but the child of God who calls upon God. And God's voice gives answer to God's holy name. In this eternal, still relationship in which communication far transcends all words and yet exceeds in depth and height whatever words could possibly convey, is peace eternal. In God's name, we would experience this peace today, and in God's name it shall be given us. I call upon God's name, and on my own, which is the same. The peace and joy you gave I claim, that nothing else today remain. I call upon God. traveled to India and studied there to repeat God's name. Because in India we have so many traditions and so many names for God. It matters not what name you use, but that you repeat the name. And so if it can just be in your mind all the time, just going, whether it's God or Krishna or Guru, whatever it is, it's just going. Or every time you have something come up that would tempt you, this is the temptation that we're talking about, not earthly things, but tempt you to lose your peace of mind, tempt you to judge, and tempt you to follow the ego's way. Those are the only temptations, is to step off the road of love and follow the ego's voice towards separation. So if you're feeling any of that, then come back quickly to the name of God to realign you with yourself, to remind you who you are, to call on your name, which is the same. So let us go forth this day with this beautiful name upon our lips and bless ourselves and everyone else with our deep devotion to the name of God and remembering who we all are. I call upon God's name and on my own. Thank you for being with me. I look forward to being with you again tomorrow.